cannot invent and pioneer if you cannot accept failure.
We wanted people that were insanely great at what they did.
Nobody was making any money at all. Most people thought the internet was going to be a fad.
Yonathan, I went to an event that rocked my world on AI, and I think our company is going to be out of business in 18 months if we don't do anything about it. Should we talk about it?
Absolutely, let's do it. Yeah.
So I got to hear the founders of Forum 3 talk. And so who are these guys? So the first guy is Adam Brotman. He's the co-founder of Forum 3, but more impressively, he was the chief digital officer at Starbucks. He literally made, designed, and launched the Starbucks app that in itself is a juggernaut of a business. He then went on to be the co-CEO of J. Crew to make it a digital first company. He's just like a baller in the digital space out here in Seattle. And him and Andy Sack, who's obviously a founder there, he was part of Techstars. He advises Satya Nadella of Microsoft. He's like VC royalty. These guys basically raised a whole bunch of money to make AI products and invest in AI startups. And so they did a talk because they're writing this book called AI First. And I was like, all right, I'm intrigued. I'm interested. There's free apps and drinks. I'll go to this. And after 1 hour of this talk, I was basically like 3 pages of notes in thinking like we need to pivot the company. And the thing that they literally opened with that they had as a throwaway line was this quote from Sam Altman was 95% of what marketers use agency strategists or creative professionals for today will easily, nearly instantly, at almost no cost be handled by AI. And so as they're investing in AI tools and building their own, they're going after marketing and customer service first. And you probably saw they had all these examples of companies that have doubled their revenue while cutting their staff in half by using AI. So the latest one is Klarna. They went from, I think, 5,000 employees to 3,000 employees by cutting marketing, cutting customer service, and still growing. And so if anything has inspired me to make our agency and AI first, it is definitely this one. But anyway, man, it's something that I'm like, wow, we need to go bigger on this. And I can kind of hit on the top 5 points, but what's on a scale of 0 to terrified, where are you feeling on the AI terror scale right now?
To be honest, with that example and the Klarna example and a few others, I don't know if it's because AI is suddenly doing the work of everyone they've just fired, or the team was already bloated and inefficient to begin with. Because you've heard the story of how when Musk bought Twitter, now X, he gutted the entire team and it still continued to function as is, which goes to show that the team was already extremely inefficient. And I know many organizations, teams that we work with that overhire, and the people on those teams are not necessarily pulling their weight, or there isn't enough work to justify their presence on those teams. So it's a mix of both. So I don't necessarily think Klarna fired all of those people and like AI bots or tools are suddenly running the organization. It's more that they were already bloated and they had a come to Jesus moment and decided to trim the size of the company. And that itself is creating more efficiency because they realized there was a lot of work that didn't need to be done that could have easily been done by other tools. So it's a mix of both. But to answer your question in terms of my level of alarm, I am not as alarmed because I don't think other people have woken up to it, if you know what I mean. We're still very much in the early adopter phase where it hasn't reached anywhere near critical mass where like the bottom can fall off tomorrow. So there's time in that sense, but that doesn't mean we can get complacent and not get up to speed with what's out there. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and like I see it a few different ways. One is clients on sales calls, they're like, oh, have you tested this AI tool or that AI tool? A lot of the savvy ones, they're already getting their hands dirty playing with stuff. The second thing is it is impacting our perceived value. because it's like, oh, you're going to do ad creative? Cool. I just made 50 ad creatives with this AI tool. Why am I paying you? And yes, you can make ad creative, but we also are seeing that it's not very good right now, but it will be. Like, it's a good starting point, but you still need someone to take it over the finish line. So I think our jobs are somewhat safe because of that final mile of the curation and expertise we put on top of it. But it doesn't mean that a lot of things are going to be taken out from under us, because I see it as like strategy and execution. It's probably better at the execution on some things than the overall strategy, just because it's so hard to give all the context to something to really drive strategy and to be nimble. It'll probably get there. There's some tools we're playing with, but that's what I see. I'm like, we have time, but man, it's moving very quickly. And so one thing they said, they're like, you're either going to get disrupted by this or you could be a part of the disruption. And they're basically like, you need to, they're kind of pushing this idea of being AI first, which, by the way, great marketing on their part to like have this like AI first movement, like mobile first, web first. And so that part I like, but they're like, okay, to be AI first, you need 5 things. One is AI training. There needs to be a level of AI literacy across the entire company, right? The second, you need an AI council, essentially a team that is in charge of what are the tools we use, how we integrate them, how we do training. And then the third thing is a use policy, where if you're working with clients, like how you can use certain data. If you're a big company working with really sensitive information, how you, the do's and don'ts of what data you can and cannot use and how to use it, how you connect all of your inputs. And then the final 2 are the AI impact assessment. Like, what are you doing and how does that impact like top line? How does that impact profit and efficiency? And then the 5th one is building and launching an AI roadmap to deploy and test things. And they're basically like, they were going through all these examples of companies that have embraced this AI first model, and they embrace it by almost burning the boats to go all in on it. And so it just got me thinking, it's the kind of like innovator or the founder's dilemma of you build something that's working, but the truth is, as the market and the landscape changes, we're going to have to change and disrupt ourselves. But it's like, at what speed and at what cost? So that's where my head was kind of spinning as I like left this event and I'm walking to my car. It's like, when are you Blockbuster versus Netflix, where you don't move fast enough? Or, on the flip side, it's Facebook acquiring Instagram at the right time to really own mobile. And it's like, what's the timeline we have here? And like you and I, as we run Growth Ed, how aggressive do we go into this initiative? So those were the things that were percolating in my head. But what are your thoughts on like balancing what's working now versus where the landscape is going and how you need to change?
Yeah, the way I see it is that whole execution versus strategy role. And even actually before that, like, what is our unique value proposition to clients? Why do they pay us? Why do we exist? What makes us better than any other agency in the world? And if we don't define that and we're not very clear on that, we're already very commoditized. If it's not AI today, it's going to be some low-cost provider who's going to come in to essentially put us in a pricing war. So we have to kind of figure that out. That is not easily done via AI or any other person or any other tool for that matter. That's our moat, if you will. And that's what gives me a bit more confidence. It's like having that IP, whether it's experience or anything else like that, that we can bring to the table. But if you're talking about the execution side of things, I think that's inevitable, and there's literally nothing that you can do to stem that tide, because it's commoditized. When there are tools that can produce the output of humans in seconds, and at volume and at quality, there's no way you can compete against that. That's, at that point, you just have to be a master of those tools and kind of weave it into your practice. But where I think we have a solid footing is the IP, the experience, the know-how, the frameworks that we bring to the table, and the way of doing that, the experience. And with that experience comes comfort. Like, clients want to know that they're in good hands. Like, it's for the same reason that you go to a specialist for something. It's that person knows what they're doing, so you can kind of rest in confidence and kind of focus your attention on something else. And that, I think, will continue for the foreseeable future. There'll always be a human point of contact between, companies will want to know that there's someone in charge of that function, whether it's an internal person or someone that they've hired outside that they deem as like an expert. But like a complete handoff to AI to operate their entire business, I think that will still be very few, I think, going forward. I don't think we'll ever get to that point where essentially all companies will like at the extreme fire everyone in their marketing or customer service roles and just, let AI run the business. I don't think we'll ever get to that point, but it's just about making sure that you're valuable enough to not be cut when all of that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like what will be valued, because it's like, we've become good at learning the ad manager tool. We've been good at using testing tools like Convert or designing in Figma or using HubSpot. I mean, it's like our next wave of hires need to be like amazing prompt engineers or amazing at using these tools, right? At their prompts. And so there's like a whole new skill set that will be needed as we're like still valuable to do that final mile and have that kind of human intervention. I'm also thinking through like, okay, that's kind of like doomsday, glass half full. How we go glass half empty? Because the other exciting thing is with our existing team, how can we do more, take on more to maximize the impact with the resources so we can have like the most lean team? Because that's a good point with Klarna. It's like there's probably some fat there as they're growing and scaling, whereas bootstrap businesses like ours, where we're already pretty efficient and lean just because we have to be out of necessity. These tools could be a supercharge for us. But I don't know, it could be worth hitting on. Well, first, so Jonathan and I have we're starting to form our AI council at our company. By the way, yeah, I'm totally drinking the Kool-Aid. I sent like an overnight Slack to the entire team, like we need to do this. And Jonathan's like, by the way, we're already doing it. And actually, maybe we start there. Do you want to hit on some of the things we're testing with AI that I think could be interesting, even if they're not working?
Yeah. So there's several tools that I'll hit on, but the one that I think is by far the best position tool to take advantage of like people shifting, non-technical people, might I add as well, going from being complete novices to being experts at using AI tools is Zapier. And Zapier has already built the infrastructure of connecting all the tools that we use in our day-to-day work. So they're strategically positioned. And they've now created Zapier Central, which is where you interface in a very user-friendly way without having to deal with code editors, linking all your data, training these language learning models, and creating output that's useful. So that could be, here are the last 10 best performing emails, generate our next 5 best performing emails, or here's our data sources, connecting you to Amplitude, GA4, or anything else for that matter, and generate ideas for us, or just making use of data that's essentially sitting idle, very inactive, that would require an expert to come and kind of find insights. Zapier is able to generate very useful output for businesses, and you can connect any tool that already connects with Zapier. So that's incredibly powerful. We're just scraping the surface there, and there's so much in terms of application and output that itself is its own big project that can consume many months. So that's number one by far. And number two that I think that's really caught my attention, I still don't know if it does what it says it does, is Needle. But Needle promises a lot. Again, it connects, especially if you're an e-com brand, it's a must. It's a must. You must experiment with it because it connects with all your tools, like let's say, your data sources, your Klaviyo, for example, and it suggests ideas. That's what's very powerful about this one. It's not just output, but it also suggests ideas in terms of, hey, your AOV is down, so-and-so products are selling in combination. Why not offer a bundle that might go together? That's unbelievably powerful. That's something that you'd expect from at least a junior level marketer that's well versed in e-com. That's very impressive if that's what it's able to do. So we're still testing it out, but that's another promising one. But another one that I think is a very good example of those very targeted solutions to very painful problems that almost all businesses have is a pricing tool called Priya. So Priya gives you essentially you do a lot of pricing tests and pricing optimization, essentially. So most stores have static prices unless you go in to change the prices for sales or promotions. It analyzes multiple data points, like your traffic, the season, your product composition, your inventory, and suggests different prices so you get maximum revenue. This tool pays for itself if it does what it does. It's a one-time setup and can pretty much run itself. So these are the three tools that are really exciting me that we're studying right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like having that hub of data. If we can pipe in Google Analytics, Shopify, customer reviews, a product catalog, ad data, and then get insights and strategy, get reports. Oh my goodness, that's like such a huge unlock that we're trying to test with. There's one that the guys at Forum 3 launched called Spock, SPOK, and it's interesting. It's more so for keywords and content strategy and SEO. There's a few others out there, but I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think they're going into other traffic channels and whatnot. And the other thing that we're realizing is the oil during this boom right now is data. So like with us, we're like, what's our data set? And really, as we were thinking about it, it's like, okay, it's past experiments we've run on websites and designs that have performed really well. It's past ad creative that has performed really well because we have a high velocity of testing and learning from that. So we're building that database to hopefully start to predict things that we would want to do. I'll tell you what, like I'd be interested too, like how are you forcing yourself to use AI and ChatGPT more? So for me, I have the desktop app, I have it on my phone, and I enable the audio version where I refuse to write emails anymore. So what I do is I always talk into it, have it say it. I'll upload, this one's amazing. I'll upload a sales transcript from an hour-long sales call. And then I'll talk into like pull up the main notes, the takeaways and action steps, and then boom, it cranks out an email. Like I'm even able to upload financial models in there to get insights and analysis. And it's like a forcing function where before I send an email, I'm like, wait, don't type, like do this all through audio. And it's just such an accelerant doing those little things. Because for me, it's about changing the small habits that I do to incorporate it into my day-to-day. But those are the things that I'm doing to kind of build it into my routine. How have you been able to work it in?
Yeah, so there's some new plugins, and one thing I've noticed is AI is coming into where we currently work. So if you've noticed on Google Docs, for example, you can essentially generate or run scripts or commands or prompts and generate entire, like you essentially produce the work that you're trying to produce with a single prompt. I'm a Notion Power user, so like if I'm trying to produce a script, for example, if you remember for Diamond Marketing, I'll go in and essentially ask it to here are 3 videos on this topic, and here's an article in a book. Produce a 5-minute video script for it, and boom, there you go, you have it. Even in Slack, in the command, you can use it to generate prompts and messages for clients. I think that's something that I've seen a few videos of people using. I haven't used personally, but that's could be a game changer fairly shortly as well. And even in Superhuman as well, I've seen that being rolled out as one of the features. So it's within there, you just drop in a prompt and you're sending an email within 3 seconds. So things like that.
No, it's awesome. I did a talk like 2 weeks ago. It was like a 3-hour talk. It was very long, but Craig Swanson recorded the whole thing. So we have the video and the audio, and then he uploaded the transcript, and then he basically built a tool within WordPress. You've seen what he's done where based off the talk, he's making content marketing from it. And it's just genius because it's like using your own words and case studies as the data set, and then it's building like all these different things that I wouldn't have even thought of. And so that's the thing that I think is really cool. If we can create this hub of data for or even for Neat, right? Pulling in the product catalog, pulling in the customer views, pulling like the top ad creative. I got the email content calendar for the next 2.5 months, basically 12 emails. And I was like, here's all the old emails we've written. here's the 12 that we want to do going forward. Write 12 emails, give me 2 subject lines to test, keep the copy between 115 to 150 words, give me a call to action, and then it just spit it out. And it was amazing. And I was like, oh my, I had to do like minor tweaks to it. So it's, yeah, man.
Like
And
think
it's
about
just,
that, for example, like all that work and output you just mentioned, like how many man hours and how much cost and how many people would it take to produce all of that? Especially forget quality. Like I don't think we'll get anywhere near that, but even just the
yeah.
volume, the output, like you can just imagine how much cost savings there is on something like that. And last point to add to this is I think the biggest advantage that we have right now is we're we're a bit adventurous. We're willing to play with items, learn new things, go to those conferences and learn about what's coming and how to what to prioritize. But they're many think about it from a CEO or founder's perspective, right? Like they're just operating their business, they're trying to grow their business and scale it, and they understand the impact and importance of AI, but they won't know how to use it. They won't even know what's possible with it, right? Like what you just discussed, a CEO won't know that's possible. And that's where we come in, is knowing what's possible with AI and packaging it in a way that makes sense, that's value adding, that's efficient, that will wow them, that will have the level of quality that they anticipate. That's where I think our unique value comes in, because most people don't know what's possible with AI. Like they don't even have the slightest clue. So that's the big advantage.
Yeah. And the last thing too, I think, is to get buy-in from the team. Because I think everybody else like, wait, is my job all of a sudden going to go away? So we've been trying to be very vocal, like, hey, we're creating an AI council, like, who wants to be involved? There's like certain criteria on, who can be there. But the goal is not to lose anybody on the team, but like, here are the tools to let you do even more, do better, and ideally make more. So it's also, if you are able to, get buy-in from the team so they're excited to test things rather than hide things, it would basically make their job obsolete. Because we've got some amazing designers where we're like, hey, test these tools. Let's see what can make us do our job better. So I think that's something that, just from a culture perspective, getting people on the same page so they feel secure and safe, that like, okay, this is something that is to my advantage and not to my detriment.
Yeah, and that's why this whole AI project is so important, because it's a forcing function, right? If you're a designer at Growth It and you're just going about your business, it's just another day in the week doing the same type of work. But if you're working on an AI project, there's an AI council, for example, and you're learning from different people, like what's possible, how to use tools, and how to take your work to a different level, then that designer will go from thinking about like, how can I adjust these pixels to produce something better, to how can I use these tools to produce all this work in a fraction of the time and potentially get paid the same amount, right? So I think that's the outcome. I think that's exciting for me and everyone else on the team. It's that they're learning a lot more and potentially thinking outside of their their very siloed roles. It's using AI to take their work and their career to a completely different level in a very short time as well. So
yeah. And we'll see who's got the growth mindset to really take this to the next level. But no, man. Well, this was awesome, dude. We'll have to do a check-in on how this goes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jim. Have a good one.